Can you see the slide on your screen?
Yes, I
Yes, these are visible.
Yeah, you can see that. Thank you very much. Okay, so girls, like today's our lesson name is Teaching Role and Responsibilities in Education and Training. Okay, so today we're going to understand the professional role and responsibility of a teacher. Now, do you have any idea or any thoughts? Like who is teacher? Can you say me something? Who is teacher actually?
Yes, sure. When we heard about our teacher, we think of a person who delivers knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, who meets the needs of the learner in different ways, who facilitate the learning process overall.
Yes, yeah, well done. Yeah, it's very, very correct. Yes. So a teacher is someone who helps others to learn. They guide students, share knowledge, support their development, and help them grow in skills and confidence. Right? So this is a teacher. Okay. So she's like a guider to the student. Okay. And can you let me know what different roles you have seen teacher are playing when they teach? They have to play different roles. So do you have any idea like what roles they play? Any thoughts for that? What different roles?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes they have to play the role of mentor. Sometimes they have to be parent. Sometimes they have to be friend to just create a bond with the student.
Yes. Well done. Yeah, it's very correct. Yes. So teacher can play the role of educator, planner, assessor, mentor, trainer, coach, and role model. Yeah. So specifically the basic knowledge we have, the teacher is someone who guides the student and teacher plays different roles. So today we are going to explore it. Okay. So today we'll see our objectives of the session is today. Today I'm going to make you to understand the key roles and the responsibilities of a teacher, understand and apply the teaching and learning cycle. Okay. Identify legal, ethical, and professional duties of a teacher. Recognize the importance of inclusive practice and planning and assessment. We are going to see this. And the last will be reflect on teaching challenges and strategies. Right? Are you happy to continue?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Right. So now here I want that you should take your notes because then yeah, in between you're going to have some of the questions which you need to answer me so I can understand like you're going through very well and we can continue the next topic then. Now, first topic which we are going to see is today's now lesson is core role of teacher. Now we will see more, yeah, more like deeply what the teachers do in a different role. Now, first we will see here, teacher is educator or trainer. Okay, and now what she does like creates an engaging, inclusive, and supportive learning environment. Okay, this is very important. The teacher creates an engaging, inclusive, and supportive learning environment. Encourage active participations, collaborations, and independent thinking. Adapt teaching strategies to suit different learning styles and abilities. So here the teacher when she plans for the lesson, she plans for the class, she has to keep an eye on the strategies and the different learning styles and abilities of the learners. Yes. Next we see teacher plays very important role as planner and organizer, right? So now here the teacher when she plans a lesson and the scheme of work, it should align with the curriculum outcomes. Okay, it should be aligned with the national curriculum outcomes. Structure learning activities logically and progressively. Ensure resources are prepared, accessible, and differentiated for learner needs. So here when teacher plans a lesson plan, or scheme of work. So she has to be very careful with the learner's accessible and differentiation to the learner needs. So we always need to focus when we are planning on the learner's need, what they need, okay? What are their abilities and their potentials. Now, third, we will see teacher also plays a role as assessor, okay? Assessor, or we can say feedback provider. So teacher need to use different assessment methods. So when you're assessing the learner, we need to use different type of methods, like it can be written, practical, or verbal. Provide timely and constructive feedback to support improvement. And when we are doing the assessment of the learners, we need to provide constructive feedback, okay, to support improvement. Use assessment data to inform future teaching. And when we are doing assessment, we have to keep the record, and that data we are going to use for the learner's future teaching, how it will go on. Is this making sense to you? Yeah. Next is mentor and motivator. Now, teacher also plays a role as a mentor or a motivator. Inspire confidence and motivations in learners. Offer academic and pastoral support when needed. Act as a positive role model through attitude and conduct. So now teacher also behave like a mentor. So we provide the learners help in academic and even in the pastoral support. And we have to be always a positive role model through the attitude and the conduct. Next, we have teacher also plays a role with the help of technology and online. If you want to give online delivery, so teachers should have a full knowledge of how to use a platform like Google Classroom, Zoom, and Teams for online teaching. Incorporate multimedia slides, quizzes, and collaboration tools. And when we are doing the online teaching, we need to use slides, quizzes, and different other tools like whiteboard you can use or polls. Okay. Maintain engagement in virtual environment through interactive elements, polls, quizzes, whiteboard, and emojis. So these are the things like teacher also cooperates with the technology to teach the learners. Now, this is very important, the time management and pacing. Teacher should know the time management and pacing in how much time she is going to finish the lesson and what she is going to teach. Okay. Allocate time for each activity, ensuring a balanced lesson flow. So your lesson flow should flow very balancedly. Include question and answer and breaks. And if you're taking more than 1 hour lessons, then you should need to put the some of the breaks in between. Be flexible and responsive to learner progress and understanding. So you have to understand the student's flexibility and response. Then we have now other role played by the teacher is as a classroom manager. Even we act like a manager. Okay. So establish clear rules, routines, and expectations. Manage behavior using positive reinforcement and clear boundaries. Ensure a safe, respectful, and inclusive classroom environment. Now here, teacher behave as a manager. Here the teacher need to put the clear rules and routines and expectations before the learners. This will help us to have a good behavior in the class. Okay, and ensure a safe and respectful and inclusive classroom environment for the learners. So this is like to manage your class. Next is last for the teachers. Teacher also do reflection, reflective practitioner. So now here, regularly evaluated teaching practice to improve effectiveness. Okay. So this means like regularly you have to evaluate yourself, like how much good you are doing and where in which area you need to do more. Seek and act upon the feedback from the learners, peers, and observations. So this when you're getting the feedback from the learners, peers, and observations, this helps us to reflect. Okay. And to do more good, you should always engage in continuous progressive professional development. So it is CPD. We say in CPD, so it is a continuous professional development. So these are the 8 points which we have seen the teacher behaving different roles. Are all the roles clear to you? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah, very clear. One thing I want to ask, are you recording the session?
Yeah, I am recording the session. Yeah. For the educational purpose, we need to record. Yeah. It's okay for you?
Yes, yes, I just wanted to remind you. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Okay, so the roles we have seen. So we act as a educator, and then we act as a planner to plan the lessons. Okay, and the next is assessor and the feedback provider, mentor and motivator. Technology and online delivery, we act as a IT person also, and then time management and pacing, classroom manager, reflective practitioner, right? Now, we have seen the before all the roles of the teacher. Now, let us see some of the key responsibilities of the teacher. Now, we have some of the responsibilities which we need to follow. All right. So, we'll see here. Now, responsibility is that plan, prepare, and deliver engaging lesson. So, whenever we are planning the lesson, it should be very engaging. That meets the curriculum and the learner's need, and it should meet to the curriculum of the national curriculum and the learner's need, right? And the next then we have the responsibility set clear objective. So before when you start teaching the lesson, we need to set the objective. Okay, learning outcomes and assessment criteria. So you have to do all this setting of objectives, outcomes, and assessment criteria. Okay. Then we go with the next responsibility we have adapt the teaching methods and materials for different abilities and learning styles. And when you are now planning the lesson, we have to see the different method, what method you are going to use, whether it will be question or answer, whether it will be like formative or summative, and any material which you need to use for the different ability and learning style. Okay, different abilities like sometimes in your class, learners can be with different abilities. They need a different color paper or maybe in a listening aid, anything like whatever they need, like a sandpaper. You have to help them and the learning style. You have to see that what their class is and how they want to learn and what how you can help them. Next, we have create a supportive, safe, and motivating learning environment. And next, you need to see that your class is safe for everyone. Then our next responsibility is manage classroom behavior effectively and promote respect. And manage the classroom behavior we have seen in the role also, like you have to first set up the rules and expectations before the lesson and promote the respect. Okay, so you can say them give respect, take respect. Okay, so it's like a managing your classroom. This is also about one of the responsibility. Next we have use technology and resources creatively to enhance learning. And then you have to use the technology and your resources, whatever you have, should be very creatively to enhance learning. So when you're creating that slides or something, then you have to see very careful that the fonts are very good. It is like seen by everyone, right? So we have to see the technology and resources. Now, for example, I have just taken one of the example of a responsibility as a teacher. If you're teaching a math lesson, use real life examples like calculating discounts, working with money, or data chart to make percentage and statistic relatable, right? So these were the responsibilities of a teacher. So do you have any doubt for anything like have you understood like what are the responsibilities, how we go with the responsibilities in the class? We need a planning, we need a clear objective, and we have to see the different abilities and learning styles, and we need to keep the class safe for everyone. Is this clear?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
it's
it's clear. Okay, so you know now the responsibilities of a teacher. Now let us focus on the important part. That is now you are very aware, like you know the what is the role and what is the responsibilities. And now we will see teaching cycle. Okay. Now you're planning to teach the lesson. And now when you're planning to teach the lesson, you have to look after this five things before that. So when you're doing the lesson, you should have everything in your mind. So first ever, whenever you start teaching the lesson in the class, you need to see, identify the needs. First, you need to find the needs, what your class needs are. Then you need to plan your lesson, planning the learning. Then you have to think how you are going to deliver, what will be the delivery learning. Then you will think assessing learning, then you're going to assess them, maybe it can be formative or summative. And the last part is like evaluation. So it is evaluating the learning. Evaluating learning is making the results and finding out the feedbacks. Okay. Let us see this more deeply. So the first, so when you're planning to teach any topic or any lesson, first thing is you need to identify needs. So now when how you can identify the needs of learner. So the first basic thing is we use diagnostic test, or we say initial test or pre-test. Okay, so you need to do the test and learner's profile. You know, every learner has a profile. When you read the profile, we'll come to know the learner's abilities, potentials, and gaps, and whatever special needs they are. If they are having something special needs, so you can prepare yourself according to that learner. Now, I have taken one of the example of the maths. If you're teaching maths lesson, a quiz reveals difficulty with times table. Okay, so if you give a short test, and then from that you can come to know whether learner is good with the timetables or not. So this is called identifying needs. Okay, and then we go down. When you identify the needs and now you know your learners very well, what are their potentials or what are their needs. So you will plan. Now you're going to plan the learning. Okay, and now when you're planning the planning should be move from basic to complex. Okay, you can't start straight away with the complex. So it should move from sequence lesson from basic to complex. Now for this lesson also you have seen like how I have done, like I have just went with the role and responsibilities, and now we are moving to the complex topic. This is a complex topic. Now you're going for the teaching cycle. Okay, so you have to always plan a lesson from basic to complex. Now I have given an example like max example. If you take plan steps from simple fraction to fraction operations. So you when you're planning any max and you're going need to teach the fractions, so you will go from simple fraction to complex fraction. All right. So now your planning is done, and now next is delivering learning. Now where how you're going to deliver? It is online, or it is face to face, or like you have to see that. And but when you're doing that, you have to keep in your mind use interactive and inclusive strategies. Okay, so you have to use the interactive and inclusive strategies, which is which all learners can benefit from it. Then the next we have, I have just here taken one of the example like from the maths. If you're teaching maths, you can use real life examples like shopping to teach percentage. So if you're teaching percentage, so you can start with the real life example with the introduction and everything, and then you can proceed with your lesson. After delivering, next part comes is assessing learning. Now you need to do the assessment whether your learners are getting the knowledge, whether they are understanding. So in the lesson, when you're teaching, you can apply quizzes or self-assessment and feedback. So you can do question answers or any formative quizzes. Okay. Now, for example, I have just taken a maths example. If you're doing face-to-face lesson, you can use mini whiteboards and peer-reviewed answers. And if you're using online, you're going for the online lesson, you can use the multiple type of questions. Okay. So you can use a pose and you can find the students' understanding. And the last part now when you're teaching is evaluating the learner. So now you're going to see how much the learner has learned. So you're going to reflect on learner's feedback and adjust the lesson. And when we do this is mostly when we do the evaluating learning. It's a summative type of summative type of test. Okay, so like exams are there, and then you'll do the topic test maybe, or the whole topic test, what you have taught them. And then you decide the learner's feedback and adjust the lesson. If you find the learner had not understood some of the part of the topic, so you're going to teach them again, and you're going to teaching them again. You are going to adjust in your further lesson. So, for example, I've taken the maths example, like so you will reteach if you find the ratios are not done by not so they are not done the ratio so good. So you will reteach ratio using manipulative based on feedback. So whatever the feedback you have made from the evaluating the learners paper or test, so you are going to reteach that topic. So that is called evaluating learning. So now, is this okay with you now? Have you got this? Like, what is the teaching cycle? How we move from one point to other point? Is this making sense to you?
Yes, yes, it's very clear.
Yeah, you're getting it down, right? Yeah. So when you're teaching, your plan should be like is the identifying needs, planning learning, delivering learning, assessing learners, and then evaluating the learners. Now we have seen like what are the different teaching cycles. Now we are going to go more in depth. Okay. Now planning and delivering. This is now more data when you're doing the planning, when you're planning and delivering. It needs the scheme of work. Okay. So we will see now when you do planning and delivery, you have scheme of work. You need to make scheme of work and lesson planning. So now scheme of work. Do you have any idea what is scheme of work? Do you know?
Yes, I
Anyone?
know. Let's if we
Okay.
do, for example, if I am teaching for a session of 3 months or 6 months, I will plan the whole 6 months in a piece of paper for like what will how will I carry out the whole sessions, the whole semester for the learning. This
Yes,
is
it's
what I.
correct. Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, it's correct. Yes, well done. Yeah, it was nicely explained. Yeah. So scheme of work is a work which is planned for the whole year or whole academic year, or all the topic, or maybe sometime when you're doing the crash courses, then it can be for 3 months or 4 months, and you plan it. And lesson planning is a part from the scheme of work. You just pick the topics from the scheme of work. Okay. So we will just see what it is. So align lessons with the curriculum. When I say curriculum, like it is like you're aligning your lesson with a national curriculum, what the nation want, like how much, if you're doing any GCSEs, you will see what topics they need to cover in a whole academic year. Okay. So align a lesson with the curriculum requirements and learner outcomes. And next is break down topics into manageable units. Next is set clear, measurable learning objectives for each session. So this is the schema work and lesson planning we are doing. So breaking down the topics and setting the clear learning objective for each session. Now at the bottom you will see they say differentiation. So differentiation now adapt teaching to meet the diverse learner needs. When you're teaching the class, all learners are not same. You will have different learners with the different abilities, and some can be SEN or EL. Okay, so you have to plan your work according to them also because they are also there in your class. So use differentiated tasks, scaffolding, and support resources. So now here also you need to use a differentiated tasks. Now differentiated tasks like you can if you know that my learners some of them are like SEN or EL, you're going to use a visual something like pictures in your PowerPoints or something picture on your slides like they can get more interacted and they understand better. So you're going to differentiate the tasks and scaffolding. Now, when we say the scaffolding, you're going to break when you're asking the questions or when you're teaching the any lesson, you're going to break it down into more small pieces. You will not go if you know that your class is having a mixture of learners, then you're going to go with the rule of scaffolding. You're going to break your topics into small pieces. And you will use some of the supportive resources if they need any support resources. So this is very important when you're doing your class. You have to be very careful with your learners' needs. Next is provide stretch and challenge for more advanced learner. And I told you like before now, in your class you will not have the some same learners. Some will be very advanced. So now how to cope up with them in the class? So you need to make some of the extension worksheets. So extension worksheets like you when you are preparing any lesson, we mostly try to make 2 or 3 worksheets. One will be like basic one, and the second will be like they will go little complex, and then the third is like very advanced for the people those who are very fast in the class and they have finished all the work. Then we give them the shine worksheet. So these are called extension worksheets. So when you're preparing your plan or your lesson, you have to keep in your mind that you have some of the students which are very advanced and they are very fast in doing their work. So you have to be ready with them also. So you need to have some of the extension worksheets with you. So this is called differentiations. Okay. Let's see the next now. Now, inclusive teaching strategies. You should have strategies now with you to make your class inclusive. So you use a mix of teaching methods. When you're teaching, we need to use different methods according to your learner's needs, visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Okay, kinesthetic is a mixture of visual and auditory. Then now is a physical. Kinesthetic also is like a physical, they do some work with their hands, where you can play some activities, something. So your teaching method should be there with a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Incorporate group work, discussions, practical tasks, and independent activities. And now to make your class to look inclusive and everybody feel they are same, they are equal, they are okay. So we need to do some of the group work. Let them do some group work, some discussions, or practical tasks. Promote equality, diversity, and mutual respect. And whenever we are doing our teaching, we are teaching in the class. Our class should be inclusive. Inclusive means that all students are equal, diversity, and mutual respect for each other. So this is the inclusive classroom. Next, we have to see resources preparation. Now, when you're preparing your resources, you have to select appropriate materials. So it can be worksheets, digital tools, videos, and manipulatives. Ensure the accessibility. When you're preparing your worksheets or your any video tools, anything, you have to see that everything is suitable to all the learners. Example, large print, translated versions, simplified language. So you have to be very careful with when you're making your worksheets or when you're making your slides. Prepare backup resources for technical issues or varied learner space. And this is like a preparing backup resources for the technical issues. And sometimes if any technology fails, you should know that you have other backup. For example, you prepare any PPT, so you should not only save in a desktop, you should just mail it to anyone. So it is safe. It's like a backup for you then. Is this okay? Now next one. So these were the things that planning and delivery needs much more importance. You have to cooperate with the scheme of work, okay, and then differentiate inclusive teaching strategies and resource plan preparation. All good? Yeah. Now let us see some of the questions. Okay, so multiple choice question. So now you need to answer me. Which of the following is not a key responsibility of a teacher? Okay, planning and delivering engaging lessons, creating a supportive and safe learning environment, ignoring learners' individual needs, managing classroom behavior effectively. So what's the answer for this?
Option C, ignoring learners' individual needs.
Yeah, it's correct.
Yes,
Option
I
C.
do agree with her. Option C.
Option C, yeah. So teacher can't ignore learners' individual needs. Okay. Next now. What is the first stage of teaching cycle? When you start, when you think like, okay, I have to teach a lesson. So what you will do? Planning learning, identifying needs, assessing learning, evaluating learning.
Uh, it's option B, identified needs.
Identify needs.
Yeah, same from my side. Identifying needs.
Yeah, well done, girls. Okay. Yeah, it's the correct answer. Identify needs. So first thing is whenever you plan your lesson, start planning a lesson, you should know identify needs. You have to do the diagnostic test. Okay. Right. So now we have finished. Now till now we have finished the first phase of role, responsibilities, and planning the lesson. Yes. Are you happy with that? Let me see if anybody has joined our
Yeah,
webinar.
you have well explained that.
Yeah. So I did. One minute. Let me see if anybody has joined our. Hmm, let's see. All right. So let us continue with now next one. So now next one, now this more deeply, now we are going to see assessment responsibilities. Okay, so let's see. So now till now we have seen the planning. Now we will see more deeply assessment. Okay, so purpose of assessment you can see here is to monitor learner progress and guide future teaching. So we do assessment, we teacher do assessment to know that how much learner has done the progress and how to guide them in future teaching. Let's see assessment responsibilities. Now we have one more responsibility, that is assessment. Okay, we need to do the fair assessment. And now work first we say initial assessment. So it is like I told you, like when it is identifying needs. Okay, so initial assessment we do, and we see identify learners starting points, strength and areas for improvement. Okay, so this is the first test is given by the teacher if she gets a new class or a new students to see, try to get the learners potential and gaps. Okay, so this is the first thing. Use diagnostic test or baseline quiz. So we say diagnostic test, we say initial assessment, so the different vocabularies are there, but it's the same thing. We do the baseline test. Example, a short test on basic number skills or timetables. Now this depends on your lesson, what you're going to teach. So you can have a small test. That's the initial assessment. Now, for example, you can see down, I have just taken a one example, like at the beginning, or if you're teaching functional skill maths. So at the beginning of the functional skill maths course, give a place value and fractions diagnostic cues. So if you want to teach fractions, so you're going to just first test them on the place values, like how they are, on the place values. Okay. Next, we will see now we have formative assessment. Now, this formative assessment we do during our teaching when we teach the lesson. Okay, so when we teach the lesson, we just put some of the questions or we ask the questions. So this is called formative assessment. So you can see a continuous check during learning to guide the teaching. So this is happening in the lesson when you're teaching. It's called formative assessment. We use questioning. Okay, so we use questioning like you just keep on asking the question and just check the knowledge of the student, like whether they are understanding. Or when you're doing the in-person lessons, we use mini whiteboards. Okay, so they can use a mini whiteboard to solve the, if you're doing the maths, they can solve the sums on the mini whiteboards. And then we have called exit tickets. Now, exit tickets are like a shine tickets. Okay, you can put some of the very exit tickets, like when you finish a lesson, and then we put some of the questions, and if the student gives the answer, that is called a sign. It's called as like a shine questions, and then the lessons are done. So this is also called. This is a new word has come now. It's called a exit tickets. So it is the end of the lesson. When you do the lesson, it is asked in the end of the lesson, or any quick quizzes you can do in between your lesson. Like now you have seen like how I have just break the lesson and I just had a MCQ questions for you to know your understanding. Same way you can use in your lesson the formative assessment. Now you can see here, for example, I have taken after teaching percentage, asked learners to solve find 20% of pound 45 as a starter next lesson. So exit ticket is like you're asking the thing what you have already have taught. You have taught in the percentage, and then you're going to ask them to solve it. And if they solve it very well, then you can plan your next lesson. Okay. Next we will see now. Next assessment is called summative assessment. Now summative assessment is like evaluating overall learning at the end of topic or course. When you finish the whole lesson, then you're going to ask a you're going to give a test, written test, or maybe oral. So it is like you're going to go anyway, but it is like a whole summative. So basically, like when we say summative assessment, these are the exams which we have. They are the summatives. So it's the end of the topic or maybe end of the course. Then the next we have use unit test, end of the module assessments or mock exams. So these are also called summative assessment. Example, at the end of the geometry unit, give a full topic test on angles, areas, and perimeter. So you can see, summative is like a whole thing. Not like a formative. Formatives are like a chunks, but the summative is that it is a whole thing. You're going to ask what you have taught them. All right. So this is summative. So basically, when we are doing the assessment, formative and summative plays very important role. Okay. So you have to plan your lesson according to formative and summative. And the next we have giving construction feedback. Now here the feedbacks plays very important role when you are giving feedbacks to the learner. So it improves the learner's learning. So here we say when you're giving the feedback, you need to be clear, specific, and focused on improvement. So when you're doing the corrections and marking the work, you need to write there everything what went well. You need to appreciate the learner. Okay. So we need to use the rule of WWW. WWW means what went well. Okay. And the next we have even better if. And now something was not so better. We are going to add that even better if. Okay. Now I have just picked up one of the example. You can see here, WW, you correctly use the formula for area. So WW, it's like this learner has done very well. So you're just going to give the remark as a way done very well, and you're going to just see which topic, which wordings or which sentence you liked much, and then you're going to say them. Okay, this was very good, nicely. You have done it, and you have just put all the words which was needed. Okay, so you're going to appreciate actually. And now, even better if we say even better if, so it is like you're double checking. Now, for example, if you're doing maths, so you double check the unit conversions. They are going to see the double check the conversions when the centimeter to meter. Like if the student has not done centimeter to meter, then you're going to just say even better if you would have converted the units. So you're going to just explain very well. This feedback plays very important role, and it should be in the proper words always. Okay. Now, next we have tracking progress. Now, this is also a part of assessment. When you're assessing, you need to keep the records. You have to track the progress of your learner. So you can see here, maintain records of learner achievements and areas of concern. Okay. Use progress tracker or assessment spreadsheet. Now, many people say trackers, many people say spreadsheets. Okay. So, but when you mostly when you're teaching them lessons and you're in the schools, we say trackers. Okay, progress trackers. Share progress with the learner during review. And these trackers you can share with the student. Now you can see the example, one example I have just had, I'm having here. So you can see assessment attempt one, attempt two, and then you're just checking the impact, like what, how much they have progressed. So like this, we have the trackers. We just keep on writing all the marks they have scored, all the feedbacks of what they have got in attempt one. And then this attempt one is basically, it's like a diagnostic test. We do the pre-test, initial test is attempt one. Okay. And after attempt one, we do the attempt two. This is like after teaching. Okay. So after teaching, what improvement has come. So then you just find the average, like how much good they have done. You can see the improvement, like what they have done. Okay. And then we have the sheet also, like this is also tracker to record the students' attendance. Okay. So this is a tracker. This is very important to have with you when you are teacher. Okay. So we have many different type of trackers, but I thought to show you more the progress tracker and the attendance tracker. That is called a register tracker. Okay. Next now, last is adapting assessment based on evaluation. Now, when you've done the evaluation, when you have done the summative, okay, assessment, and you come to know that your students are lacking somewhere, they have not understood some of the part of the topics. So you need to plan the next lesson according to that. So it is that modify future lessons based on assessment results. So you have to modify your future lesson. Okay. Example, if most students struggles with solving equation, reteach. Then you have to reteach using the manipulative or interactive tools, right? So these were the things you can see. Assessment responsibilities. So when you're behaving as an assessor, okay, now your role is here like an assessor. So you have to be very, very careful with your initial assessment, formative assessment, summative assessment, giving feedback, and keeping the record in your tracker. It's called a tracking progress. And then planning your next lesson according to the evaluation result. Is this making sense? Is this good?
Yeah, all good.
All good. Thank you. All right. So now on assessment, we have some of the questions. Please answer me so I can understand your understanding. First one, they say, why is the evaluating learner stage critical? To identify learners' need, to plan future lessons and reteach if necessary, to deliver content through activities, to access with quizzes. So to what you will do, what do you think? What is the right answer for evaluating learning?
I guess it would be option B, to plan future lessons and re-teach if necessary.
Oh, sorry, it's correct.
Yeah, sixth one is more suitable.
Yeah, it's the most suitable. Yeah. So when we do the evaluating learning, the most critical stage is to plan the future lesson. Okay. And reteach. So before planning a lesson, we need to do the initial assessment. After evaluation, we need to see whether I need to teach this lesson again, or I need to teach any of the missing topic, the gaps which the teacher with the learners are having. Okay. So to plan future, reteach if necessary. Well done. Next now, during which stage would a teacher use quizzes? Educating learning, accessing learning, evaluating learning, or identifying needs.
Well, I think it is specified to assessing the learning, but in the option could be, yeah, assessing the learning and evaluating also suitable somehow.
Okay. And what about you?
Yes, I also feel the same. Assessing learning or evaluating learning, these both can be the right options. But now you can tell me tell us what is the
Yeah, very
most
well. Yeah, very well answered. Yeah, assessing. Yeah, assessing. Whenever you want to assess, it's accuses you can do in formative, you can do in summative, but it is in assessing. Yeah, it's correct. Assessing learning. Next one now. What is the main purpose of assessment in teaching? To punish learners who do not understand, to check learners' understanding and progress, to waste class time, to only grade learners.
to check learners' understanding and progress.
Yes, well done. Yeah, it's to check learners' understanding and progress. Well done. Good going. All right, next one now. Which of the following is an example of formative assessment? Final exam at the end of the term, peer feedback on problem solving tasks, no assessment at all, only marking homework.
Yeah, it's the second option. Peer feedback or problem solving task.
Yes, it's correct. Peer feedback. So it's a formative because when you're doing in a lesson in a class, so you can go with the peer groups and find out the answer feedback. So it's a peer feedback on problem solving tasks is a formative assessment. Well done. Right. So now you are seeing like we have seen the assessment responsibilities. And now next our goal is to understand how to promote inclusivity. Okay. So role in promoting the inclusivity, now you know your class should be always inclusive. It should be open for all type of learners. Okay, whether they are with different abilities, it should be for all the learners. Now inclusivity, now how you're going to make your class to look inclusive. So here are some of the points which you can keep in your mind to make your classroom inclusive. So it is welcome to all the learners. So now you can see here, you need to identify and support learners with special educational needs and disabilities. So in an inclusive classroom, you have to just take care of special education needs. You know, I told you first the peer, all learners are not same or equal. Some people can have some of the special abilities or some can lack the abilities. So you have to be very careful with the SEN, EL, okay, and sometimes you even have the ESOL learners, so you have to be very careful with them, okay, and you need to prepare a lesson according to them. Next is use differentiation to tailor the task, pace, and support. And then this is again inclusive, make your classroom inclusive by making different tasks for different learners because some learners can be very, very advanced. So you have to prepare your worksheets or any other resources according to them so that they don't feel like they have done the work and they're just sitting idle. So you can provide them the different work so they can work on the higher level. Okay. Next we have like is ensure all learners feel valued and respected regardless of background. And you should always keep a class inclusive that all learners feel they are respected and valued in the class, regardless of their any background. Okay. And the next we have to see that encourage the collaboration and peer support to build the confidence. And when we are how we can have the inclusive classroom, encourage the collaborations, peer supports, okay, and to build the confidence. So they come to they get the confidence if they work with their peers or their friends or their classmate. So they get the confidence and they feel happy too. So encourage the collaborations in the classroom. So this was the inclusivity. Okay, so you can when you inclusivity is just a thing like you have to make a class inclusive, and it's we in a simple word we say that welcome to all learners. Okay, so your learners can be any, and you're welcoming them in your class, and your class should be like it should be fully friendly, safe, secure. They should feel they are respected, and they are valued by teacher and by the friends, by the peers. Okay. Now, next we will see, this is very, very important. Next topic is legal and ethical responsibilities. Now, teacher also has responsibilities like legal and ethical. When you're working somewhere and then you have to see very carefully some of the legal and ethical responsibilities. Okay. Now, first thing comes very important is safeguarding. Safeguarding and prevent duty. Okay, so now safeguarding is very, very important when we are working with the learners. So safeguarding, protect learners from harm, abuse, or neglect. Prevent duty is be alert to sign of radicalization or extremes. Okay. Example now, I have just picked another example for safeguarding and prevent duty. Report concerns if a maths learner appears distressed, isolated, or shares something worrying in class or online. So when you're teaching a lesson, if you find that some student is not going so good and they are maybe they are distressed or they are having any problem, like okay, so you need to share something. If you feel like it is worrying thing, then you have to share with the DSL, okay, designated safeguarding lead. Okay, so this is a safeguarding. This is very, very important. You have to be very, very careful with your responsibility, this one, when you're teaching the learners. Next is the equality and diversity. You need to practice equality and diversity. It's very important. So ensure all learners have equal access to learning. Okay. Value and respect difference in ability, culture, background, and language. Now, for example, I have just taken one example. Provide an additional support or visual aid to EAL learners struggling with maths vocabulary. The EAL, okay, if you see any EAL people or any SO learner, if you feel like they are struggling with the maths vocabulary, some maths is a subject which has a different vocabulary, it's like a numerator. If they don't know what is numerator, you are going to make them to understand by the visual. You can make a flashcards or something, or you can make them to understand. And then mean, to find the mean. The mean is actually finding the average. So you are going to make them to understand with the help of any visual aids. Okay. And then difference, and the difference is actually take away doing the minus, so you have to explain them. So this is the type of thing, like you're making your class inclusive and making them equality and diversity, that all the learners are welcome and you teach them in their according to their abilities. Next we will see data protection. This is very important. Again, data protection is called GDPR. Here also, when you're working with the learners, handle the learner's information securely and confidentially. You have to keep the learner's information very, very secure and confident. Okay. Avoid sharing learner's data. You can't share your data or learner's data with anyone without any consent of head. Okay. Or any responsible person. If you have to contact with the head or a responsible person to share the learner's data. Now, for example, store max assessment scores in a password protected file and avoid printing learners list unnecessarily. Okay, so this is the thing, like you have to store your assessment, the reports or results or scores in a very, very secure way with a protected password. Okay, and avoid printing learner list unnecessarily, and you can't print learners list anytime. Okay, so this is called data protection. Next, we have health and safety. Now, you have to be very, very careful with the health and safety in your classroom. So, maintain a safe learning environment physically and online. Follow school institutions policies for emergency procedure. Now, for example, in maths class, using a compasses or a measuring equipment. Ensure learner understand the safe uses. Now, when you're teaching any like maths lesson and you want to teach any angles and you're using compasses or a measuring equipment, you should make learners to know that how they have to keep themselves safe. Okay, so this is very important, using the health and safety measures. And then we have professional conduct. Now, this is also a legal thing, professional conduct. Maintain appropriate boundaries and communication. Okay, so you need to have a professional boundary between you and the learner. Act with honesty, integrity, and respect. Okay. Now, for example, you can see here how to keep your professional conduct. Avoid forming friendship with students on social media or discussing personal opinion in class. Okay. So you can't do like you can't have the personal friendship with the students. You can't do personal talks with them. You need to have professional conduct. This is a legal thing when you're teaching learner. Now let's see. So we have seen legal ethical responsibilities teacher has safeguarding and preventive duty, equality and diversity, data protection, health and safety, professional conduct. Right? Let's see some questions now. Yeah, here you go. So how should assessment records be handled? Shared with anyone who asks, kept confidential and secure, ignored after grading, destroy immediately after marking. So what do you say? What's the answer for this one?
Kept confidential and secure.
Yes, well done, yeah. So how should assessment record be handled? Kept and confidential and secure. Well done. It's correct, yeah. Next one now. What is an example of a teacher's legal and ethical responsibility? Sharing learners' data with anyone interested, reporting safeguarding concern promptly, ignoring health and safety regulation, avoiding record keeping. What's the answer for this one now?
I think it is again option B, reporting concerns promptly.
Okay, and what you say? Tanya?
Yes, option B would be the right answer as far as I could have seen.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, you're getting the point. I'm happy and you're understanding the things. Very nice. Yes, correct. Reporting safeguarding concern promptly. Yeah, it's correct. This is a legal and ethical responsibility. If you see anything wrong in a class, anything wrong going with any learner, you should report to the safeguarding lead. Okay, it's correct.